Today in Cannabis News, activists for cannabis policy change in the state of Texas urged the governor to approve more reforms during a special legislative session. Cannabis activists in the state of South Dakota unveil 4 legalization proposals for the 2022 ballot, depending on a state Supreme Court ruling. And members of the U.S. Congress backed the use of drones to detect illicit cannabis cultivation on federal public lands. It's Wednesday, July 7th, and this is your TRICHOMES Morning Buzz.
Broadcasting live from the TRICHOMES.com studios in Southern California. It's time for your Morning Buzz. We bring you late-breaking news that keeps you up to date with what's happening in the cannabis industry.
First up, Republican cannabis advocates in the state of Texas are urging Governor Greg Abbott to include more extensions to the state's medicinal cannabis system on the docket of a special legislative session this week. This comes after Governor Abbott enacted legislation last month to modestly extend the medicinal cannabis statute by including more eligible conditions and marginally boosting the THC threshold for cannabis goods. Republicans against marijuana prohibition wants the governor to utilize their unilateral power to put initiatives on the agenda that would enable authorities to include additional eligible conditions for patients, such as untenable pain, and significantly alter the THC threshold. As of now, Abbott has stated that the emphasis on the session would be on election restrictions that GOP lawmakers failed to pass earlier this year. Additionally, following the governor vetoing the draft of the state budget that was approved during the regular session, legislators must still complete it. Separately in Austin, Ground Game Texas, a recently formed progressive organization, launched an initiative last week to place measures for the decriminalization of cannabis possession and the restriction of no-knock warrants on the November ballot.
Next up, South Dakota state cannabis activists have submitted 4 distinct legalization bills with the State Legislative Research Council, which is the initial step to placing the measures on next year's voter ballot. South Dakotans for Better Marijuana Laws claims that the initiatives will be dropped if the state Supreme Court reverses its ruling to annul Amendment A, a cannabis legalization measure approved by voters last November. But for the time being, they're starting the process in the event the court fails to respect the electorate's decision. Although the 4 proposals have some common elements, they each take a different strategy to policy reform. A 5th bill supported by the coalition would repeal the single subject requirement for the ballot procedure, which resulted in a state judge declaring the 2020 recreational initiative unconstitutional. Advocates are aware of the time constraints to having any of the initiatives certified for publication and to gather sufficient signatures to appear on the state's ballot. If the court upholds its reversal of Amendment A, the organization will explore placing just one of the cannabis proposals on the ballot.
Last up, a prominent U.S. House panel has stated that it backs federal law enforcement actions in the state of California to utilize drones to locate illegal cannabis growing operations on public land. Although it stated that backing is conditional on the resolution of cybersecurity and local production challenges. The statement about using drones to identify unlawfully cultivated cannabis was included in a House Appropriations Committee report released last week as part of a proposed budget for the Department of the Interior and Environmental Initiatives for fiscal year 2022. The report, like those of prior years, tackles the subject of illegal cannabis growth on federally held public lands. However, this year's wording on using drones to counter illicit producers is novel. These unlawful activities harmfully impact the public, water, soil, and wildlife. The committee supports Forest Service efforts to develop tools to detect and eradicate grow sites, says the panel's report. The committee also supports the Department of the Interior's use of drones to conduct statewide remote sensing surveys of federal public lands to identify grow sites and allow for the development of cost estimates for reclamation after concerns about cybersecurity, technology, and domestic production have been addressed. The panel appears to be seeking to prevent drones from being utilized to monitor state-licensed cannabis production nearby federal grounds, as some California cultivating regions, including Humboldt County, border federal land.
And that was today's Buzz. Thanks for listening. For more cannabis news and insights from industry professionals and a place to discuss these stories and others, visit TRICHOMES.com.
And be sure to catch up with all of our other cannabis industry-related podcasts like Hash It Out, Careers in Cannabis, or the International Cannabis Conversation wherever you get your podcasts. For TRICHOMES.com, I'm Devin Leal.
And I'm David Fortin. Catch you next time.